All right. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the February 18th, 2026 Forest Lake Parks and Recreation Commission regular meeting. Our first order of business is we have a new commission member, Nikki Searing, and I'll administer the oath of office to Nikki. We go down here, Kyle?
Yep.
Okay. All righty. I guess raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Nikki Searing, do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States. Support the Constitution of the State of Minnesota. And to discharge faithfully the duties of Commissioner of the Forest Lake Parks and Recreation Commission. And to discharge
faithfully the duties of Commissioner of the Forest Lake Parks and Recreation Commission.
City of Forest Lake,
City of Forest Lake,
Minnesota, to the best of my judgment and ability. So help me God.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Once we got to 10 words, I'm like, oh boy, we better back it up.
I don't blame you a bit. That's.
All right, let's do a roll call and maybe you want to do a little bit of introduction for Nikki besides just saying aye. Does that sound good? Okay.
Commissioner Lundmark.
Here, Commissioner Lundmark, I've lived in Forest Lake since 1996. Good Lord. Yep, so, and I've raised all my kids here and just happy to be a part of this commission. Glad to have you here with us, Nikki.
I'm Gary, been in town about taking time around to the park. Okay.
Sue Herdina. Born and raised in Forest Lake. Well, I won't tell you how many years, but I've been on the commission for 1 year now, so.
Don Tyson, I've been in Forest Lake since 99 and certainly this is the first year on the commission.
Karen Moorhead, a second time on the commission, and have lived in Forest Lake for 60 years. And we have a wonderful community that you can do a lot of fun things, and happy to have you on board.
I'm Aaron Eckert, transplant here from Florida in 2017 with my family. 2 kids and a wife, and both kids active in the hockey association here, so welcome aboard.
Yep, Commissioner Searing.
We moved up here from down in the cities in 2017. So it'll be coming up on 9 years this year. So I'm very excited to be here. I have young kids in the community, one in 6th grade, one in 4th grade. They play multiple different sports. So we kind of use all that we have to offer up here in the city. So it's amazing to be a part of, and I'm excited. Thank you.
You have a dog? 2 dogs. Welcome aboard.
That didn't take long. All right. Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please stand and join us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approve the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or corrections? Not a motion to approve would be in order. Tim moves.
I'll second.
I think that was an Aaron second. All in favor?
I.
Opposed? Agenda's approved. Open forum. Do we have any citizens to speak tonight? Looks like we have one. Welcome.
Karen.
Hi, my name is Karen Dickey, and I didn't know I was going to have to speak. I thought I was just here for support, but I've been talking to Kyle about the possible dog park that he's working on, and I reached out to him a while back because I was babysitting my granddog and wanted to bring him to a park and was just shocked that Forest Lake didn't have one. Then a year went by and then I reached out and Kyle had said that you guys were meeting on this. So I have been to many dog parks around the area and I really, many of them are very nice. I kind of talked to Kyle a little bit about what what you kind of look at in Forest Lake. And he gave me a little bit of information, but I'm definitely willing to do some work with what needs to be done to get a park. I'm just surprised that we don't have one. I live out on the lake and I see people like driving out to the middle of the lake, using the lake as a park, which is great. And I'm teaching, it's a puppy, so we're training her to do that. But in the summertime, there's really no place to go. And I just look around and see so many opportunities. So Kyle, I'm not really sure what you want from me. Just, or if you have questions or.
No, this was just to provide the feedback for the commission, just because we're actively working on that.
Okay.
That's something we talked about back in December and January.
Yeah.
We'll have a little staff update on it, but we don't have a full report tonight, but just that's perfect what we need for the commission to hear from community members.
Answer questions. Be
Happy to have you here.
Thanks for
Okay,
coming out.
thanks. Bye.
All right, nobody else. We will move to the next item. Approve the meeting minutes from our January 21st meeting. Any corrections to the minutes?
I have a correction, so I would move approval with the correction.
Okay,
It was kind of listed that I was still maybe thinking a 3-acre park was what I was looking for when I got a message from Florida. And they showed me pictures of different dog parks, and I realized at that time that 3 acres might be a little bit hefty for Forest Lake. But we do want a really good dog park, and therefore this commission has been talking with the staff about maybe finding alternative spots or looking at what would be available. So I just wanted it corrected that I was no longer stuck on the 3-acre park.
And just to clarify that 3 acres was large enough, but you weren't necessarily thinking larger than 3 acres?
No, I was not thinking 3 acres. Once I saw the film from Florida, I realized what 3 acres looked like, and I had to admit, for once in my life, I was wrong. I'm surprised that wasn't in the minutes. Now I have to admit it again.
Twice now?
So when, you look at the size and some of them are 70. I didn't know what 3 acres looked like, but I was quickly shown what it was, and that's too big. So I wanted to continue, and I'm glad we have another dog owner up here. But certainly the commission, I hope, will still be working on it, but looking at a size that would fit for Forest Lake and take care of the puppies and dogs.
so Karen, in the paragraph that you talked about that, just you want to strike the part that says and a 3-acre park would be a good start.
Right.
So the motion is to approve the minutes with striking that, those 7, 8 words there, Kyle. Any other corrections?
No, move approval.
Karen's moved approval, a second with that amendment.
I'll second.
Sue seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All righty.
And then just to note that Nikki's, will be refrained just because she wasn't here for that last
Oh,
meeting. So just,
sure.
the motion will move 6-0.
Okay. All righty. Next item, staff report on Hidden Creek South from Community Development.
Yes, thank you. While you're putting on the clerk for my PC, I just want to share with Commissioner Eckert that I also have moved here from Florida, but you use transplant. I refer to myself as a refugee. So I think you have better memories back in Florida than I have. Born and raised, so making it through a nice winter up here. And if anybody needs any advice on where to go in Florida, I'm sure I can point you in some directions. But today we're here to discuss Hidden Creek South. Now, this is a preliminary plat, plan unit development. You previously heard last April a concept plan. It's being brought to us by Headwaters Land Group. It's the same developer who has developed the rest of Hidden Creek. This is the continuation of those efforts. This slide shows the location of this proposed Hidden Creek South development. The development includes 2 parcels on the southwest part of the city. The extension of Headwaters Parkway will run through the middle of the site, essentially bisecting the 2 parcels right down the property line. The development includes about
Backside of
171
210th
single-family
Street.
homes on about 56.5 acres. After removing wetlands, the estimated net developable area is about 55.5 acres. The city code requires that 10% of the net area be dedicated for parkland. That comes out to about 5.5 acres. The applicant is proposing approximately 2.5 acres of land dedication along with cash in lieu to meet the full requirement. No park improvements are proposed at this time, only land, and this is at the recommendation of community development and park staff. It's important to remember that the dedication calculation applies only to Hidden Creek South. Wetlands and stormwater ponding areas cannot count toward the required acreage. This map comes from the city's 2040 comprehensive plan. Between 2020 and 2021, the former Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission supported combining parkland into one larger neighborhood park instead of having multiple smaller parks. This direction informed this 2040 comprehensive plan. In accordance with that direction, this map shows that this general area where that arrow is pointing has been identified as a future neighborhood park area. The exact location is not locked in, but the plan expects parkland to be added as development happens. This supports the idea of combining land from different phases to create one larger neighborhood park in this part of the city, and that development being proposed would support the implementation of the city's comp plan. The city has reviewed park planning for this area before. As part of the earlier Hidden Creek development, about 3.17 acres of parkland were dedicated west of Headwaters Parkway. This area is directly to the north of the property that we're talking about today. That area is shown in green on the map. That previously dedicated acreage is not included in the 10% calculation for Hidden Creek South, since each plat must meet its own requirement. However, when you look at the previously dedicated 3.17 acres together with the proposed dedication in Outlot A, which is labeled, which is directly south of this previously dedicated park, the total area supports the earlier direction of creating one larger neighborhood park. In addition to Outlot A, developer has proposed the additional dedication of land within Outlot C in the southeast of the proposed development. In April 2025, during concept plan review, staff estimated a need of about 5 to 6 acres and clarified that stormwater ponds cannot count toward required park dedication. This is a breakdown of the usable acreage in the proposed park areas. Outlot A is about 3.22 acres total. Now, none of these are final. These are estimations based on the conversations we're having with the developer. So this should just be looked at as kind of a rule of thumb. About 1.3 acres of the stormwater ponding leaving about, and 1.3 acres of that 3.22 acres stormwater ponding leaving about 1.92 acres of use. Outlot C is the bottom southeast corner, is about 0.88 acres total, and about 0.4 acres is wetland. There's a wetland that really exists right in the middle of the property, leaving about 0.4 acres of usable land. City code requires that park dedication excludes wetlands and stormwater areas and equal 10% of the net developable acreage. So the focus tonight is on usable acreage, park configuration, and whether the proposal meets the full dedication requirement. The commission is asked to review whether the proposal meets this 10% requirement, whether the park configuration is usable, and whether the land and cash combination is appropriate. At the concept stage, the developer showed park improvements. Their current proposal shifts to dedicating land and providing cash in lieu with no improvements proposed at this time. Again, this was at the recommendation of community development and park staff. Staff recommends that permanent trails not be built within the dedicated parkland at this stage, so the park area can be graded flat and kept flexible for future design. Per the staff report, staff recommends the commission discuss the proposal and recommend approval to the city council of a combination of land and cash in lieu, ensuring the total dedication equals 10% of net developable acreage. The developer is here. If you have any questions for him, do you have any questions for me?
Members, any questions for Stephen? We have discussed this development before, so,
Did I hear, excuse me,
yeah, no, go.
did I hear you say that it's back now to the combined acreage for the park to be used one bigger park rather than?
The acreage, especially with Outlot A, would be combined with the previously identified and dedicated 3.17 acres to make a more or less 5.25 acre park with a stormwater pond feature there.
Been a while, but I think that's what the other previous commission had talked about and, but no park would be developed at this point, just,
It would be the parkland dedication, and it would be up to Kyle and the team to start programming that as we go.
okay. Want to mention that. Poor guy's just coming in with a development. I'll give him a minute.
3 acres though.
No, I mean, it just makes so much more common sense to have a larger area than little ones here and there, so.
About the no permanent trails within the. How was the walking?
If, I don't know if you can go back to one of those, originally there's just shown that a trail would go through there as part of the development. You can see that, either one of those, that line, like the shaded line that comes up off Headwaters Parkway. We are just suggesting that doesn't get put in because we haven't really designed the park and that might not be in the right spot, or we may want to make a loop around the entire park, or we don't know exactly where the playground is going to go. So we just want flat land. So then myself, Kyle, Public Works can design a concept that will be reviewed by you to be the overall plan. We just don't want to have to try to work around a trail if that's not really where we want it to be.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I think there's a motion that's in the memo that somebody could make.
Except the parkland and cash.
Let's see where you're. It would recommend the city council approve the parkland dedication proposal, allowing for a combination of land and cash in lieu of land dedication.
All moved.
Okay, Sue moves it. Second by Tim. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right.
Word to it.
Thank you for your work on that.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Stephen. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is a staff report on our Parks Master Plan update. Kyle?
So we have Josh here with Bolton and Mink. He's going to give us a presentation. Just give me 30 seconds to get that.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming out.
Whether the roads are snowy or not. I know a couple of the commission members have also been sitting on the steering committee. So at any point, if there are questions or you have things to add, feel free to jump in. It's really meant more as a progress update and a conversation more than a presentation. So we have been meeting, we had our third steering committee meeting actually earlier this afternoon. Really looking at the park system plan. This board is actually one that we are proposing to use as part of a set of, I think, 6 currently for an open house that is scheduled for next Monday, the 23rd, in the community room between 4 and 6. Go ahead and go to the next. And the next one again. So schedule, this just kind of brings us up to date, kind of kicked things off, at least from the contracting side and starting to pull things together in October. Got the steering committee seated. So we had that first meeting in early December. Tried to get some materials so that we could work over the holidays and then come back together in January, mid-February, and then today. We'll have at least one more meeting in mid-March where we hope to have a full draft of the park plan so that the steering committee can start looking through that and then seeing what we need to do to kind of get it in a finalized state. And then we'd be looking at bringing something to this group for commission to take a look at in their April meeting. And then from there, depending on how the discussion goes, get it turned around for council to review. So we're still on track with what we had talked about back last fall. So one of the things that we did really to kind of get us kicked off, some of you might recall that some work had happened in 2022 and then it kind of stalled out and hadn't gotten finished. So we are picking up that work, confirming some things from that, adding additional information, and then making sure that the recommendations are qualified for here and now and are going to be a good footprint or a good guide moving forward. So some of the information on the screen were some data points that 2022 plan looked at, really looking at growth of the community, looking at some different composition of the community and demographics, looking at existing facilities, both in terms of trails, city park and open space, but also like wildlife management areas or space or regional trail that are within the city boundaries, but maybe aren't directly governed by the city. Go ahead and go to the next. Walk shed analysis was one of those areas to get a feeling on where people are living and if they have access basically within a 10-minute walk to from their house to a park. So, from this one, you can see that there's a lot of spots where, it's missing currently. We go to the next one. And I thought there was another one in there, but basically some of the areas that were dashed in that previous slide line up with comp plan, right? It's indicating that those areas where people are living or where there's development, really trying to get access to parks in those spaces. So the one that so we do have a public survey currently open. We started that in mid-January. We're looking at having it open through the end of day next Monday, the 23rd. So if people haven't seen that yet, I would encourage you to, Kyle, I don't know, it's been out through some Facebook posts. Where all has that been promoted?
So it was a City of Forest Lake Facebook post. I know like the school district community had shared it, but then it's gone out in different type of newsletters, YMCA. Some of the schools have been willing to share it. Some of them have not, but yeah, kind of multiple different directions. And yeah, just trying to get it spread out through where people are receiving newsletters and looking through some of the information.
I think we are, as of yesterday morning, we're about 235 respondees. We will have the QR code and hopefully have a station set up at the open house next week so that we could get additional people if they want to do that and haven't yet, so they can participate in that. A couple of slides that we plan on having at the open house just provide an overview of responses to date. What are people interested in? What are they looking for? Who's been responding? Where have the participants, like what's the composition of where they live within the community? For those who might remember the 2022 survey, this was a map that kind of came from that. So it was helping to understand some of the natural barriers, some of those harder barriers, whether it be 97 or it be Lake Street North. How are they just naturally navigating people to what park they might go to versus crossing or lakes that might serve as a natural barrier. So getting a better understanding of what the different means are from that perspective. If we go to the next. So we've started recommendations. They're in a draft format. They're still pretty high level. Steering committee looked at things that are a little bit more granular this afternoon. We're going to ask the public to do the same thing. We're going to pull them back together so that we have an initiative, which is kind of that desired outcome. We're going to have recommendations, which is what action are we trying to, basically achieve toward that desired outcome. And then we're going to have a rating or a range in terms of 1 to 3 years, 4 to 7, 8+. Parks system plan is typically a 10-year plan, similar to the comp plan. And then one of the recommendations within that is going to be like every 2 or 3 years, just doing a check. Doesn't have to be redoing it, but are trends the same? Are the needs the same? Have things changed within the community? Do we need to make any tweaks? So some additional mapping, and one of the pieces that we are looking at currently from this, I would say park classification, making sure things are aligned with national metrics. In this case, NRPA is National Park and Recreation Association. We're trying to align the classifications of parks, and by that also like size of acres, what typically happens within those different parks. How do you manage them differently than another park? Trying to get those things baked into the plan so the city staff have a little bit better direction, but then also this body into the future has a better understanding of what are we looking for when you talk about a neighborhood park versus community. How does it relate to an opportunity that might come up through development or just managing the system? This kind of goes with the same thing. I would say, look at this high level. I know there's some tweaks that still need to be happening in this, but one of the things that we're going to be looking at with the plan is probably suggesting a few tweaks in classification, but making sure we also provide definitions for what those tweaks mean. So that's kind of what these are saying without getting into a ton of detail at this point. Another board we're planning on having, actually this one and the next 3, they align with the different categories. There are 5 basically overarching categories for the recommendation. Parks is one. This map is looking where the parks are now, different classifications within that, and then also some park search service areas. Those are the orange boxes. Similar with trails. So from a trail search corridor standpoint, one thing we've heard from 2014, the recent comp plan, the 2022 survey, the current survey is walkability, connections, making sure that there are trails and connectivity. So it's looking at that from a mapping interface, but also from recommendations perspective. And then awareness programming, natural resources, resiliency, operations and maintenance, or operations and management are the 3 that kind of round out that box. So we're looking holistically at the entire system, but then also how it functions and how you manage it over time. Another piece this body wants us to look at adding to, and so that we are actively working on, is a review of the park dedication fee structure. We are in the midst of doing that. Basically, that came through in the recent discussion that was on the table. How does that function? How is that a tool to help grow or improve communities' park system? And then kind of what the fees can or can't be used for, and if the current structure is meeting the needs and appropriate with kind of state statute, city code, and court rulings. So currently I would say the Forest Lake as a population size is kind of between or on the edge. So they're not necessarily in that, 0 to 20,000 size community. They're also not necessarily to that 50,000. They're right in between both. So with up to 20,000, it's typically 10.9 acres of parkland per 1,000 population. So you take the overall parkland that is available within the city, currently as it's on the books, divide that by the population, you get a number. That's basically your ratio. And what that ratio is, it's from NRPA. It's an average, or it's a mean number based on all of the cities that are within that within that population range across the country that have reported data. That's that number, 10.9. So some might be lower, some might be higher. The average is about 10.9. When you get higher than 20,000, it actually jumps to 12.9, but that range is from 20,000 to basically 50,000. So it's quite a gap, right? Currently, Forest Lake is at 8.13. So it would be at a deficit based on its current population trending, growth going up. So we're looking at that as part of that, the park system plan, also part of the dedication fee study. And we will have a proposal. In a draft format, I will share that we are looking at keeping it same as it is. One thing that, because it aligns with statute, it aligns with the court ruling. Park dedication is one vehicle that helps to grow parkland and make improvements. That's not the only vehicle. It's probably the easiest vehicle. But what we haven't done yet, and what I want to do before it comes back to you, is get an understanding of the developable residential land or commercial industrial that would flow into park dedication, and the areas where we want to look at parks. How would that affect the number? So I want to do some future projections to help you understand what that means a little bit better in terms of where you're at, in the future relative to that 10.9 or whatever ratio the city determines to be kind of that sweet spot. So we haven't done that yet. That's what I want to do, and also have some other examples for city staff to understand, steering committee to be able to review, and to provide better clarity for the commission as you're reviewing that and then using it moving forward. So
Josh, sorry, quick question, Josh. I assume that bodies of water aren't included in that acreage, like we got a beach and people
Yeah.
use the water.
typically are not included in
Okay.
that. Yeah, so it'd be very similar to the discussion you just looked at with that park in terms of wetlands or stormwater funds. Now, the interesting thing is if you have like nature preserves or nature park spaces, and you're using them for like passive and have trails or boardwalks around it for educational purposes, depending on the type of park you have, you may be able to include some of those because they are providing access to natural resources and, social mental health, outdoors recreation. So there's some different things that we'll iron out as part of that. The other thing that I will say on this slide is at the very bottom right, one of the things we want to try to bake in is a little bit better understanding of how to you as a commission use park dedication, right? And that is reviewing park need, park search corridor areas, so things from the long range of the system plan. Same thing for trails, and that kind of helps determine if you might be looking at land to your dedication or cash in lieu of. Basically the same conversation you just had with that opportunity in the southwest part of the community.
Can I ask a quick question, Josh, just because I don't know this question? So when we're going through and planning these, are the developments that are in the works and being talked about included in the plans that you're doing currently?
We are trying to include that information to the point that we can. There are some, I'm not gonna get this right, planned unit development, I think, PUDs. That depending on where they were at in terms of discussions with the city or with council, some of them, were back in like 2014, 2015. Those already set the course to some degree on expectations. So some of those decisions that have been made in the past, developer and the city, probably are going to talk about those things, but to what degree you would be able to manipulate or massage those is just going to be an agreeable conversation relative to those plans, but otherwise, yes.
Thank you.
I have a question, Josh.
Yeah.
You had a slide, I don't know where you find it, but it was the one with back in the 2023, 2013, 14, showed the spots that were identified at that time. My question is going
Yeah.
to be because I know Bolton Mink did that as well.
Yeah.
And there was a planned park area by Schillings. And it had, when you mentioned the nature,
Yeah.
that whole thing was nature and the dog park, that fell apart. So is any of that, I was wondering if that circle on that slide was over in that area where there doesn't seem to be anything over in that area. for
So
parks.
one of the recommendations, there is a slide in here. It's not as clear as that one probably, but it does tend to align with the comp plan image you had in that previous, the previous topic. But one of the recommendation is looking at evaluation of some of those areas that are really natural spaces that aren't really programmed, and looking at what those can be to better serve the needs of the community moving forward.
And that was a very open,
Yeah.
have kids from the school go out. People could go out a walking trail and learn about nature and birds and all that. So I don't know whatever happened to that.
Bixby was
Bixby.
one. There were also some others like Southview, which tends to be, currently is more of a natural space kind of between some developments. And it's really looking at what's on the books and seeing what makes the most sense to provide the positive direction for the park system, but also meet the needs of the community.
Good.
Go ahead next. So some upcoming activity. Obviously, we're at the Park and Recreation Commission. The open house, I've already mentioned, next Monday. It's before the council meeting. So from 4 to 6, we'll be there. We'll probably have some refreshments. We'll have some different boards, some activity. So it's not just going to be looking at things and providing a comment card, although people can do that if they want to. Then we will, the survey is currently set to wrap up. Basically, I think through that day. So basically all day on Monday, you can still take it and participate in that. We'll be looking at a fourth steering committee meeting in mid-March. That's going to be reviewing a full draft of the plan. Identifying any final tweaks, any adjustments we want to make, seeing if we can get any, hopefully a little bit nicer weather, get a few more nice photos of some of the parks in the community. And then look at taking it to a commission in April, and then council, depending on commission, it might be early May, but that timeframe that we had talked about, we're on track to hit that.
Thanks. And questions, any of the members have Josh?
And anything I missed for those of you on the commission who are on the steering committee, feel free to.
Josh, is there anywhere in the plan, do you do any high level cost estimates of what it would take to develop? Because it's easy to say we want this, but everything comes with a price tag.
Yeah, we will have estimates of costs for the more granular information. We'll also have, similar to what we did in the 22 plan, we'll have general costs for typical things like benches might be this for cost, or mile of trail, or like per foot of trail. We'll have some different related items to help the city develop budgets for things, but then where we can, we'll also have a planning level costs to help gauge what are we looking at for that 1 to 3 commitment, 4 to 7, 8+, along with some funding sources.
One final question I have is, I know NRPA does have standards for how many staff a city should have based on park size. Are we going to address that at all? Because
We do
it
have.
takes people to get these things done.
We do have information on that, and that is one of the pieces that we will want to confirm and review as we're wrapping some things up for a full draft. We had done an initial take of that at 2022. I know we were deficient in that area and want to see how that currently sits relative to existing conditions, but also moving forward with other recommendations the plan has.
I think we're very fortunate to have Bolton Mink still working on that, because they have shown many times how much they care about the city and have worked well with the city. And they're going to jump in the lake for the city. So
Some
I'm
of us,
pleased.
I don't know if I'll be there. I don't know if I'm going to jump in.
But seriously, Bolton Mink has gone overboard with a city engineer has to do in a great company. So I'm glad you're combining the old work that was done to not leaving that just fall off the deal. So, thank you.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to pull this together and to at least present this progress update to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Certainly, we encourage people watching to take the survey and come to the open house. Commission does listen to comments. The recent survey on Bayview Park is an example of that. I think we were all on the fence whether we put the basketball courts back in, and the residents said do it, and so now's the time to have your voice be heard on the parks. Melissa, I'm sorry.
Everybody here just needs to invite people to that meeting. I've been inviting everybody that I talk.
Thank you.
Thanks. Safe drive home. Okay. All right, next item 10. Kyle, outdoor athletic facility study.
Yeah, just piggybacking off the master plan. One thing the city gets hit on quite a bit is the athletic complexes, whether it's fields, rinks, so on and so forth. And certainly, as this commission, most of this commission knows, early on conversations with the district and maybe some changeover of the Fenway fields, we're very invested and interested in not doing too much duplication. And, you know, with this master plan, we really want to have a good idea of what we're at for spaces where the city has its spaces, but so does the school district. And the school district and city staff, myself and Dave, have been meeting monthly, having good conversations about what's their plan, what are they looking at for their spaces. Certainly, parks isn't all athletics, but it definitely does get built in. And the school district's looking at maybe pulling back on some ball fields or looking at some green spaces. What is going to be their maintenance plans of those? So together, we're working on one study or analysis of all of our spaces and trying to summarize that together versus the city just doing it and then the school district doing it in another year or two. So it's just going to kind of help each other out with this study. And I think it's really focusing on again, just how many users do we have? FLA is going to be heavily discussed with of how many fields are they wanting, are they needing, how many kids are programming. But I believe it's been shared with this commission, the reality of, some of these local athletic associations and organizations is about half of their population is made up of Forest Lake youth, and the other half come from Scandia, Lino Lake. So while Forest Lake wants to support FLA as much as we can in the youth sports, we can't just be the sole provider of all those facilities, being that we have non-residents, and we have to consider that too. So really, I think just the district is very supportive. They're willing to put in some finances, and really staff feels the breakdown is about 2/3 city information and about 1/3 the district, and that's what they're willing to pay for, about 1/3 of the study. So seems like a pretty positive conversations and will be valuable information for us with this master plan going on too.
Questions for Kyle?
I'm nervous when I see they're not from Forest Lake, because a lot of those kiddos live really close to Forest Lake and their parents and things come. So just a little thought went through my brain as we still have to work solid with FLA and bring in the number of students or kids that they do, because we care about all the kids. Something about separating Forest Lake and Scandia and the other kids.
Well, I think at the end of the day, so we have like the baseball association, they like to call Forest Lake home, and they want 5, 10 more ball fields because they say they don't have enough. And then when we meet with the school district, they're saying they want to take away some ball fields out at some of these outer schools because they don't get used. So I think it's kind of that question of, do we want to spend dollars to build ball fields while other local entities are going to be taking them away because they're not being used? I think that's the biggest concern there, is to make sure we're not going to also say, oh, well, we must need to add a bunch more fields while other entities are just shutting them down because they're not being used. So it's just, we have some facilities in place already. It doesn't seem like the wisest when we have a lot of other park projects that people are asking for.
Kyle, yeah, there's two proposals in the packet. Have you selected a consultant or are you looking for input on the proposals?
We did, so with the, we were given a recommended consultant to talk with and work with, and being that the study of this nature, we wanted to reach out to a second one. Those two are just put in there just to kind of for transparency. The attachment A, Ballard King is the one that we've felt was the most appropriate, being the information that they have provided, and it seems like the experience that they've brought with other local Minnesota city studies, that they really seem to be providing exactly what we're looking for. You know, we tried to keep we try to research a little bit more local for consultants, but by Ballard King coming from out of state, but they serve a lot of other Minnesota communities, it kind of shows you that there's not a lot of just consultants sitting there to provide this type of information. So really the recommendation is just, you know, the commission just recommending approval of the council to, you know, fund that study for us to put forth towards the master plan.
I have a question for you, Kyle. So here's just kind of piggybacking off of Karen's and yours with the outer cities. Obviously, with some of the rinks and such that we're using, let's just say outside of Forest Lake, Linwood, Scandia, stuff like that. Like, I don't know how close all of our cities work, but is that possible to maybe go to the local and neighboring cities and say, here's kind of what our plan is, here's what we're working on. We know the number of students that come, because ultimately I think the younger kids, K-5, they divvy up the teams based on where people live. And so you're going to get people in Linwood and that whole team's Linwood, but they're coming down here to use our fields. Vice versa for football, such like that. So is that an option to be able to take some of those teams or some of those areas and kind of venture out to those cities of where the folks are? Because again, it's going to save people an hour of drive time.
I think this is what hopefully this study is going to produce is, you know, they're going to do a full audit of all of our facilities, the schools and the cities. And hopefully what'll come up is, yes, there's a overgrown field and name your place here. If that was upkept and some of the pressure that was on city fields was used, you know, that's an option. Instead of, hey, city, let's build another quad like Fenway, there's a bunch of other little fields around here that you could put a lot less money into to make it another practice field, another certain age group field. I think that's what this study is trying to do. It's trying to find all the fields that the city and the school have. Also, what am I looking for? Tier them, saying this is a game field, this is a practice field, this is a little kid's kickball field. And that study will say, we have way too many X amount of fields, but not enough this many fields. So when the school and the city get together and, you know, the pressures on, we need more premier game fields, well, let's spend the money and taking one of our sub-tier fields and just improving it versus taking additional parkland to make another premier field. And vice versa. They might say, we have way too many premier fields, let's scale that back and let's you know, improve some of these other ones. You know, it's basically finding all we have, users we have now and projected users over the next 10 years to see if we have enough, if we have to plan to have more fields, if we have way too many that we should scale some back, if we have too many of one or the other. It's also going to dive into ice rinks too, of do we need more ice rinks, not only in the city, but could they be strategically placed in other areas? So that's why it benefits the school, because they do serve that population of everybody around. We're focused really on the city, and it ties in with our parks master plan. So when we have name or developer come up and say, we want to build something, we may say we need another ball field down in this area, and it came out of this study and it came out of the master plan, and it kind of ties together with what we're trying to do. But at the same point, we don't want to build a field. If the school district has a perfectly good field that could be used, that just underutilized. So that's why Kyle kind of brought up the Parks Master Plan, and this really ties into that for more athletic facilities, where the Parks Master Plan doesn't really dive as deep into this.
And then kind of piggyback with the city to city. I don't know how standard it is for cities to work. Certainly with the district being so widespread, you'd think that maybe there'd be some opportunity. I guess I haven't done a ton of reach out to other cities, but as far as it being standard, I don't know that it necessarily is, but we can certainly push that information out to say this is what we're doing right now.
We're the big city in the area, right? So it's, this would be a heck of a proposal to a Scandia or a Linwood to say, how much do you want to spend on the study? I think unfortunately or fortunately, the city and the school are the ones doing that heavy lift to come up with the information. Long term, it may say we need something in this general area. That might be when that pressure gets put on of, hey, you got to help us out with name your facility or help improving a certain city field or something like that.
I like that idea too. I mean, just wait for the information to come over and then take and collaborate at that point. Once they give us more, then we can really see the whole picture and say, okay, maybe we can work with them to do such things.
Correct.
Thank you.
I'm happy it's going to be done. I think it's a good thing to do, but it took us so long to understand that Fenway is not just one of the parks. Fenway was a created piece to bring in lots of new people and be a premier place. And I don't want it, just from my own personal, I don't want it to ever be one of the parks. It's a special place. Lots of money went into it, a lot of time and effort went into creating something like that. So in this, I hope that just comes forward.
And staff is looking for just that motion to recommend council approval of the Ballard King study for that amount.
Make that motion, Karen.
Sure.
Karen's making that motion. Second, anyone?
I'll second.
Aaron seconds. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks, Kyle. We'll keep, this one's Dave's, I guess, Bayview Park Reconstruction Project.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner and Commissioners. This is something we've been working on since October. We kind of brought this up this is the project for 2026. We spent a bunch of time on it, had that survey go out. Have done a lot of cost estimating. We're kind of at that point now where we're looking for a recommendation to put this out on the street and get some bids for that playground. The final tallies on that first page, if you look, with everything kind of broken down, the initial budget was $450,000. We figure with estimates, it'll be in that range of $378,000 to $428,000. That range is squarely on in the RFP. It's asking for a range of equipment from $125,000 to $175,000 just to get. And we'll ask, they can submit up to two, different variations of a playground. So they may submit a low end or a high end, and that's where that different dollar amount comes in. As far as timeline, we would put this out probably tomorrow or the day after, and we'd be looking for them to submit their proposals by April 1st. We would bring that to the commission meeting in April 15, for them to do their presentations, kind of like with Manor Park. We're requesting storyboards, and if they don't want to show up in person, to have those bigger views. And hopefully get recommendation for which playground the commission selects to go to council award on the 20th. That said, then that winning bidder would be able to start procuring the equipment. It's usually 13 weeks for them to get a playground, the one that's selected to be built. In the meantime, that playground be open and be basically shut down like Manor was around the end of July. And that's when Public Works would go in and get rid of the old equipment, demo out the playground, demo out the old basketball court, the parking lot, and Public Works would put it back together with a new container, new blacktop, new basketball court, and then ready for that installer to come in right after Labor Day to put that new playground equipment in. And final completion date around October 31st. Could be done way quicker than that if they came in right away in September. It could be done still middle of September. But really, if you took time to look at that RFQ, that's basically what we're proposing to send out to about 5 or 6 vendors like we did last time, and then just see what they come up with, and then value your input of, well, when that time comes. Really, any questions about Bayview, the RFQ itself, anything you have for me, I'm willing to.
For taking the time to get it all finished, and it looks like it's well on its way now.
Dave, is the RFQ just for the playground equipment and everything else city staff does?
Correct. The rubber mulch will be bought off a state contract. We can do that way cheaper than having the equipment manufacturer. We're gonna just use a concrete contractor to do the ribbon instead of having that with the playground. We're gonna sub out the blacktop. We'll do all the removals, but then we'll have a contractor come and put it back in. So we're trying to be as efficient and Public Works as much as possible for most of us, just to drive down that cost. I mean, if you contracted this all out, it'd probably be close to $750,000. So we're trying to eat that cost down to have a better playground and have a better park by drawing down those costs that would just be going to a consultant or, you know, that overage with the contractor.
Any questions otherwise, or is there a recommendation with a motion for us to make tonight?
I can make the recommendation to city staff. This is quotes for the Bayview project, reconstruction project.
All right, Karen makes a motion to solicit, go ahead and move ahead, solicit quotes for the project. Do we have a second? Melissa seconds. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right. Back to Kyle, farmer's market update.
Just to get ready to finalize this and put it out, wanted to bring it forward to the commission first, looking to get this final out before March, if possible. If there's any recommended changes, they can certainly take those in, but it's, you know, it's nothing crazy about this. It's pretty standard for purpose and regulations. You got to be pretty tidy on an event like this. It will get checked out. So that's gonna be the first thing they ask for, to make sure you're within your own guidelines or policies. So it's, I did go work with some other markets. You know, White Bear Lake was a really good partner in explaining the whole process and why they do what they do. So that was super helpful. And a lot of this information comes from other markets around the area. So it's, pretty tight the way it is, but it just gives you a good look at what we're going to be putting out there. The market application is just to try to, the goal of not oversaturating the market, having too many of a certain vendor, and then just kind of the market permit that will get set out once they're approved and at the market. And that's something that is highly recommended to have, just to make sure that the folks that are there at your market are supposed to be there, and everyone knows that. There is the map that this was shown to the commission, I think back in October or whenever we had done the initial discussion. So just kind of reiterating that that's our area. We have the little spot dedicated for vendor parking in hopes that there's plenty of parking. Certainly the first year we'll find out how much traction we get in there and how many vendors we get in there, and can kind of, work on the fly a little bit, but we believe this should be a pretty good, solid plan for the first year. So
I love it. Great job.
thanks.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Any,
Are we still looking at Rotary Lions, whoever wants to set up and help us with that?
Yeah, I definitely had interest. The Rotary seemed to have interest, but just have not got a commitment. I'm working with the county and trying to get SNAP benefits and market bucks there where people can come use those credits and then things like EBT, but certainly having to have that on-site person. So I am kind of going to some alternative angles. I know the Rotary, the biggest concern was the amount of time. I mean, it's a 19-week deal. But yeah, that just really hasn't gone anywhere. I haven't heard. Had another conversation with the Rotary president and just haven't got a one way or the other.
I heard too that they were interested, but we'd have to get the commitment of the club to make sure we could fulfill it.
Yep.
But I think after the plunge, they'll have a lot more time and we'll bring it up, Mo and I can both bring it up to get some commitment out of them.
What's the commitment on the part of whomever that commitment look like?
So really the goal is to have somebody there to work that side of things with the market bucks, right? Staff would have it all set up, but it would just be the person there to actually do the exchange. There's a little card reader that they just plug a card in and then it kicks them out a credit for what they can go shop around with at the market. That's really the goal of having somebody there. And then just certainly be that entrance, hello, explain, just any questions. Staff would provide the map of who's here and information, but just to be that hub, but then really to operate that market bucks and benefits portion. Again, it's how the county has explained it. It's a very simple, it's like a credit card reader, and then it just tells you how many market bucks and it's handing that out.
Would you need to be there?
Yeah, it would be something where once the market wraps up, it'd just be to get to cones back to designated areas, but then there's no reason to stay there. It's going to be on the vendors to clean up, and certainly we'll have a plan to make sure that's being done. Something, yeah. There is one thing we had talked about. We kind of landed on some dates. I think it was like June 20th to October 24th maybe. But I know when talking to some other markets, they did just suggest to say like the third Saturday or the last Saturday, just for a consistent start year to year. So I don't know if that's something that this commission would like staff just to make that tweak. Nothing's really super finalized, but certainly we've talked about that. So I don't know if that's something that we'd consider. I'll just kind of double check to make sure we haven't put too many things out on those dates, but just to consider that tweak is what was recommended.
That's what you have highlighted in yellow, Kyle.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, seems to make sense instead
Yeah.
of a date.
And we can pick the third Saturday if we want, but it was just recommended to always pick that one. So if we do land on those dates and stick with them, it's just always that third Saturday. So.
Great.
Any other comments for Kyle? All right. As you heard already, great job. So,
Thanks.
okay. Outdoor ice rink report. Kyle.
We talked about this past fall as well as the ice rinks, the usage, looking at belts and tower, with just the goal that we put some numbers to the participants and just kind of put those numbers out to the commission just to show the usage reports. Just provided a simple year-to-year usage example. Certainly there's things where this year I think we saw some more consistent cancellation days, and certainly that affects participant numbers. But really just to show kind of there's a big gap now where you get from the tower parks to belts. Certainly there's the two rinks. One thing that this year too is the Hockey Association did heavily use ice. And we do have someone here, I think that the president, Chris, and if you want to step up to the podium, you can just quickly introduce yourself. But it's just to kind of show you again the number differences from the usage, and that's something that staff feels is important because there's a lot of staff time. Public Works spends a lot of time in caring for that ice. So just to make sure we're seeing those numbers is important year to year when we're talking rinks. But I know the Hockey Association used the rinks a lot down there, and it seemed like they just had a message of appreciation for that.
Yeah, so Chris, Vice President of Business. So I'm over the scheduling side of it. And so this year, if you haven't seen, obviously some of you guys are on hockey, right? But we are growing drastically. So a couple of years ago, we did junior rangers. And right now, if you look at Forest Lake Hockey Association, over half the players in Forest Lake right now are 8 and under. And so our numbers are through the roof. And so with that comes the wave of needing ice, right? Exactly, right. You need ice. And so this year, the previous year, we kind of talked about like the rinks are there, but they haven't been well organized. Well, on our side, we kind of like tell teams, just go use them, right? Go use them. Well, you didn't see a lot of participation like that. So this year we said, all right, we've worked with Kyle. Matt Folsom was kind of that lead, and then kind of took it over. And part of it was, all right, let's kind of coordinate it with us. We coordinated with Forest Lake. We coordinated with Scandia as well too. And we kind of tried to get, okay, how much ice could we get? We got as much as we could. And I'll say, honestly, we filled it. Obviously, this year was a challenge because the temperatures were up and down, right? The ice was up and down, but we definitely filled it every chance we could. There was teams where they would love more ice, right? So I know I've got 4 kids in hockey. I've got a Bantam 12U, and they had a blast because a lot of them, once you get to those upper levels, you don't really have a lot of time to do outdoor ice because you're going to do games, you're going to play tournaments, right? So just getting outside and doing the old school pond hockey is fun, right? And so, and they were kind of bummed. There was only, with all the so many teams we have 37 teams this year. There wasn't enough ice to go around. So I would say on our perspective, like we're interested in more ice, right? Whatever that looks like, right? We're here to help support, right? So this year we even agreed to pay for the ice, right? To help that upkeep, help to defray those costs for the city, because we know that we're rough on it, right? We know we're rough on it. I mean, the Mites maybe not, but when you get a Bantam team out there, when you get a 12U team out there, they really work the ice pretty well. So, and I know there are some things we've worked as a group to also help improve, fix some of the problems, but for our perspective, we're really appreciative, right? It went really well in our perspective. We would all love to have more ice this year, right? But if you look at the weather, right? It's been raining, it's snowing, it's just been everywhere. So it's unfortunately got cut early this year, but there's definitely the need, and we're continuing to grow, and we're going to need more ice. So anything that you guys can do to help us, that we can do to help you to keep that partnership going, I think is really appreciative on our side, because we definitely need more ice. So
Thank you.
Kids
Yeah.
loved it.
I did too. I'll second that. The kids were going up even on days that they didn't have their teams practicing. We had other teammates of theirs call and say, hey, we're gonna run up to Tower. Do you want to come meet us? And we would, I mean, quite a bit actually. So I think I was gonna say, thanks for doing that. Thanks for participating, because I don't think hockey's a different beast, but if you have kids in it, they appreciate it too, and all the time and ice that they can get. So it's huge that we had this many that were able to get out there and use these parks this winter.
Yeah, and I know Dave kind of had a rough guess on hours. Did we ever figure that? I mean, we know,
Yeah, right around 1,000 hours so far into them. So
and it's it's every day, every morning, public works staff, 7 days a week. They're coming on the weekends. It doesn't matter if they're holidays. They're coming in. They're zamboning. They're clearing. They're taking care of that ice. And like I said, this is why we want to make sure we're pursuing as much use as possible, because there's a lot of resources and caring going into those rinks. So yeah, it was just all in all a pretty good year, and I mean, great ice. All considering too. So.
1,000 hours is a lot of hours, but if they're getting used, then it's worth those hours, right? The bad thing would be if we put 1,000 hours in like we did previous years and you're not getting usage, then it's wasted time. But getting used, you're seeing these increased numbers. There's reservations, then even my staff are more ambitious to get out there and make it look really good and have good ice, because they know it's getting used. When it just to do it, it's a lot different.
Exactly. And just knowing too, like Chris brought up, I mean, 50% of our association is 8U and under. I will tell you, they're just gonna get used more and more, which is a beautiful blessing too. So
throwing 3 or 4 teams on a rink at one time, because there's just not enough, right? So that's where it's like, we'll take as much as you can, and we're here, we're on our side, we're looking at, okay, what can we do as an association? Well, more ice.
Sounds like we might need to move Tower Park rebuild up.
You're not interested in that, are
The
you?
master plan, huh?
That's why you're here, Aaron.
Take
Personally,
that over the dog park first.
Oh, boy.
oh, boy. She's got
Almost-
2 dogs.
We almost made it through the day.
You know, you had a comment in there that Belts Park, you know, a
Oh.
lot of people that are really unhappy with how do you get to it?
Right, that's what I was gonna ask.
And I don't know what to do with Belts Park anymore because it's just so needy in so many places. And that's one that we're gonna have that rink there. I think it's just really hard to expect people to go and skate on it.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that warming house attendants heard, is just the parking. So certainly that parking lot, idea of being in there is super helpful. We can't let people drive in there with that path now. I mean, that's just it's a potential waste of that path to get really beat up and unnecessarily. So it's one of those things where it's the off-street parking and, it's until we do something about the parking lot, it's what it's going to be. So certainly that was a complaint.
And
Minute.
that, if we talk about parking, that's still gonna be a long way away from that
Yeah.
rink. So I just like to think, city trucks have been on that path. And how many cars would actually go on that path if they use that for bundling up their kids and taking off their skates? You think that would really ruin that?
The path isn't meant for, vehicle
Wait.
daily use. Certainly there's vehicles going on it, but it's not
Traffic.
correct. It's just getting in there and getting out. The parking lot would be exactly where it was before. It's going to be built to kind of be built off that path, I believe, or around that path.
Yeah, you have been right by the rink.
So you're not talking about the other corner. You're talking about a parking lot near the rink?
Yeah, but right, because how to explain the
How
with
is
the
that
path?
not
Would
boring?
that path get redone to be?
And part of the challenge is
The path,
not
the
plowed
path, the
all the way
existing
to the
path.
curb too. I mean,
The existing path right now is developed, that would be the center of the parking lot. So
And-
we still design and put the path in there, so if you envision that there's basically 25 feet on each side of that path would be where that parking lot was gonna be.
That's good news.
I mean, something
If
I
we
know
ever
is,
change our mind at some point, the curb cut is designed for traffic. We designed the stormwater feature for that parking lot. We did everything except for build the parking lot. So if it ever comes back around that we want the parking lot in, all we have to do is put the parking lot. Not all we have to do, but all we have to do.
So I have a question, and I might be just looking way too far back and not tuned in, but the old hockey rink that's over by Forest View Elementary, that building that the
Oh.
kids used to play hockey in, whatever happened to that?
So that's the school district's building and grounds hub. So that's where they keep all their plow trucks, their mowers. That's their shop that they work out of now.
All right. No,
yeah, because
Any other comment, Aaron?
I was just gonna say, the one thing I've noticed about Belts Park, driving by every day, dropping the kids off at school is when we do get snow, you got a good 1.5 feet, 2 feet sometimes away from the curbs. So you're actually parking in the street. So if I want to get out with my kids, they've got to get out on the roadside because you can't get off on the park side because there's snowbank. So I mean, if we're going to keep that, I think that's an area that we need to focus on, at least making sure that curb is cleared to the curb and not just I'm plowing the street and leave 2 feet off the edge or whatever.
Okay, I think staff have that comment, right? Anything else on this topic? There's no action needed, so, all right. Other than that, we'll move on to spring fling.
Just because Commissioner Lundmark glares at us every time it's not on there, we've got it on that agenda. We've heard we've heard that a couple times now. Staff, with turnover and things happening, there's kind of the impression that the chamber running the Easter egg kind of took that on and took that over. So just kind of wanted to open up discussion on maybe just some spring fling items. What does that look like? What does this commission, think of? Is it something we want to pursue to bring back? Is it something to obviously it wouldn't be for this year. It would be for 27. But just kind of, we have maybe some ideas of what it used to be, but if there's any suggestions or thoughts, or, would you like to see some proposals brought back, or, what's the general consensus of this commission on that event?
I participated and volunteered. But I like to do it, I would love to do it in conjunction with the chamber down in the park. I think it'd be really nice to see it down there. I would love to have the chance, if this is something to talk to some folks from the chamber. And talk about some ideas. Maybe bring it back to you. But
Yeah, the tricky thing about the spring fling or doing it with the Easter egg hunt is sometimes Easter's in the middle of March and sometimes it's in the beginning of April, and roll the dice on weather. So it's a tough thing. I know I'm assuming that's probably why they had it here, is because it was indoors. You knew that whether it was 5 degrees out or 50, at least that event was going to go. That's just my comment on that. And the other. Yep. And I think the other comment would be is, does the city want to have another event? I mean, we've kind of worked, even like the farmer's market, that we're trying to get into the business of developing an event and then hopefully handing it off to somebody else to run the event and let it be an event for the Rotary or the Lions or the Chamber. So they're caution, or just want to know, do we want to kind of get back in that business? I mean, we have Arts in the Park. Do we want city run events, or do we want to partner with somebody with a spring fling, come with ideas, and then try to find a person that would want to latch onto it and have that type of an event?
You were absolutely correct. City used to have a big thing outside, and the weather was always a problem. And it went inside, it was a small thing, and all of a sudden, the city expanded, and it was quite a lovely event. You're probably talking about the one that was expanded. And a lot of opportunities for kids and families to come at that particular time. Easter does move around. This year it's April 5th. So it's hard to say, but that's when Chelsea took it over then with her real estate, and they did a smaller Easter egg hunt. I mean, it's not small, they have lots. But so if you're thinking partnering with someone like her, because she's the one that really puts on that event now. And Chamber helps a little bit, but
partnering with the things that are like, there was at one point, there was Winter Fest a couple times, and that kind of centered around the Rotary happens. And so then there was that whole world. Working with the chamber to have, the businesses do special things, and with the spring cleaning, it's kind of the same thing. Chelsea's kind of running it, and she loves doing that. But then partnering with the city to do a little bit of something to promote it as a event. Doesn't have to be ran by us, but partnering with that would still.
I mean, I thought it brought a lot of happy faces into the city center that wouldn't know anything about it otherwise, and the kids with the trucks and everything. It just brought an awareness of what the city does have here. But I don't know what the expense was to having it. I think there was a lot of expense to it. It was just more time. Is what you
Well,
think?
a lot of the time, it's not the expense, it's the time,
Yeah.
So that's, got a bunch of other stuff we're doing, and that's fine too. It just, you've kind of had that direction, or that direction of really not wanting to take on events to try to be more than willing, just like Kyle's doing with the farmer's market, and doing all the back work, getting it set up to be a very good event, and then hopefully handing it off to somebody else that can take that. So it's, I'm not sitting here arguing against, absolutely not, we shouldn't be a part of this event. I just want to caution you of how, if we take on an event, then it's our event, right? And then it's our event. just like Arts in the Park is our event, and it gets bigger and bigger, and it's still our event, and more time and more energy that goes into it. So especially if you're envisioning a event that's going to get bigger and bigger and multiply and be this thing, you know, Kyle and I are only two people, plus our maintenance staff are a lot, but also have other things to do too. So it's just knowing if that's a dedication that we want to do something, or it's more to your point where a different group wants to coordinate with us and we can provide the space and the help, but really not saying we don't want to touch it, but you know, we'll help you get off the ground and help do the coordination and the planning and get you off the ground, but then, you know, it's yours going forward.
I would concede that we wouldn't have to have that as an event, but maybe Mo and I could even work with a couple of the other people that are doing it. Because I know we've got you busy on other things, and I don't want those other things to be dropped.
Like a dog park,
Maybe.
hypothetically.
So we've added that to your table, so maybe, and especially Easter's gonna be very early this year. I don't,
It's always something to think about whenever it comes to the spring. I like the idea with partnering. You've already got somebody who's kind of doing it as like a city sponsored, but a city recognized event, and you recognize that we need a small cleanup after that.
Yep. Or even,
Opportunity there.
or even, I mean, just providing the fire hall, cleaned out fire hall for an on-board, I mean, that's a very big cost participation that the city's providing, a place for this event, so.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, honestly, just thinking about weather-wise, timing-wise, all the things. If we could park and, you know, partner with obviously the city and Chelsea and the chamber and all the things, and just kind of doing it as a joint venture. In the fire hall, I think is beautiful. I mean, I just go and I think about even the safety camps and all the things. We can hold quite a few kids in there with different stations that they already do, and then we don't have to worry about the weather outside, knowing that it's already gonna be inside. You know, if we wanna do some things out, throw eggs out, whatever, fine, they could do that as they come in, but then just have it dedicated, we're here at the city, this is our contribution, and then bring in the rest of the folks to partner with us. I think that's a
Yep, so you guys would, you would like to do some talking and then come, you're actually doing this the opposite way, you're gonna do. This is fantastic.
get something done now.
David's like, wow, we're gonna be able to be really good at a few things instead of spread out and mediocre in a bunch of
On
things.
top of things.
And
I
then
think
that
it's
reversed
gonna
on
be
you
great-
quick.
Great addition to this commission.
Couple thoughts. Go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead.
Seems like every meeting, there's a new idea or a new proposal, whether, you know, we talk drones or participation in the boat races and stuff. I'm wondering if sometime during this year, we could have a discussion, what's really the mission of the city and Parks and Rec? So we have something to measure against when because all these ideas are good ideas, right? But at some point, how does this really fit what we're supposed to be doing here as a Parks Department? The other thing I think would be helpful, at least for me, is seems like we have a lot of things going on, but a calendar or a list of just all these events we're putting on, even maybe a high level of just how much effort it takes to pull these off. So I think we're all cognizant of the effort it takes. Nothing happens on its own, right? No matter if you partner or fund, but just, I don't know how we're gonna get our hands around all these good ideas that keep coming if every one we just kind of either kick the can or go, well, let's talk about it more. No, does it fit what we're trying to do here or not? And then move on. Like we moved on pretty quick from that boat race. We're not gonna sponsor a private outfit, right? So just an idea, if it's worth a discussion at some point with the full commission, now that we actually have 7 members. So,
Yep. Oh, that's a great idea.
all right. All right. So, moving on from the fling. Staff updates.
So, you know, one of the things we've talked about is the dog park, right? And I think January, the whole idea was for staff to start gathering input and information and kind of bring back a report to the commission of making sure we're checking boxes of what we want. it's obviously without having a park narrowed down, acreage options is kind of up in the air, but staff has kind of heard loud and clear that the 3 acres isn't a minimum requirement even, but we're kind of floating, with maybe just those averages, I think, which is, like I said, 2 to 3 acres seems pretty average for a city park. One thing that it's important, I'm reading a lot that, there's a few things that the dog parks really want, to see with their space, and that's, shade, trails, open space, access to water, and then separated areas, small dog, large dog. There's even a lot of parks that go as far as having, if they do have 3 acres, or even if it's, 0.7 acres in 3 chunks, they have a fenced-in area for large, fenced-in area for small dogs, and then a fenced-in rest area where the ground just gets beat up, and then you kind of just rotate that. So I just wanted to talk, because I think the March will have a more formal report, but staff, again, is reading, important with shade trees, again, access to water, trails, open space, and then the fenced-in area. Is there anything else that you want staff to really consider now? We'll maybe start looking into the parks we have. Just, again, we have some open area parks, but they don't have shade, so we're just gonna kind of X those off. Is the commission in support of that and feels like that's a good base to work off of? Any access?
Access, yeah.
Is there, I know you've,
Yeah, that citizens have been to many parks. I think that'd be a real good addition for our investigation of.
yeah, is there anything that you would like to share about other dog parks, Karen? Do you mind just coming back up to the mic? Just, yep, thanks.
I think we had this conversation before, Kyle, about, just having the open area for like wooded area. And I'm just trying to think, the ones that are really top notch have a bathroom, they have a faucet that you can fill up water bottles. Folks will just bring their jugs and fill them up there. But then there's dog bowls, water bowls all over all at many different places throughout the parks. So plumbing, I guess, is the thing. Parking, of course, you guys have hit that. And, I think about, you're talking about the folks that it takes to run something like that, and that's always the question. But, that would be, the one at White Bear Lake that I go to, it seems like it's volunteers and probably people like me who's retired and have nothing to do but sit at a Forest Lake meeting. So, and it seems like a pretty organized, and I'm not sure if that's how they do it, but, I talked to a few of them, but that's a way to, and people like, retirees have time and they like to be involved. So that's one way of just making sure that, that it's not running, but that there's, because as far as like, there are times when there are problems in the dog park. I've talked to people that have said, oh, there was a fight, they had to call in, somebody to take care of it. But just to be an overseer or somebody there that can answer questions and help. I don't think it's necessary, but like I said, that's just one thing that when you go there, it feels good to have somebody that's kind of in the know. And that's an easy thing for volunteers to do. So I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head, but that's it.
Hate it.
Yeah.
Cross and look at the one in Florida and what. A dog park, you could go top notch.
Yeah.
Have play equipment for the dogs or you
Yeah.
could just have a dog park. So when
Yeah.
I hear you say you wonder why we never had a dog park.
I know.
We'll be satisfied with a medium.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, but so the one in Wyoming, has anybody been to that one? It's just like a football, not the size of a football field, it's pretty small. But there's no shade, so it can't be really used in the summertime because it's so hot and it's, and I do go there and there's just so that one is only used for a short time when the ground is hard because it's also very muddy. So, those are the things that you really have to think about because you want it to be used. And so, that's just my 2 cents.
It's worth 4.
Okay.
Anything else, Kyle?
Yep, and then staff has worked with the Washington County for some community gardens. Are going to make some improvements there. I wasn't able to get it, just timing to get it on this agenda, but we did apply and were awarded a $5,000. It's kind of like a grant, but it's a contract with the county to do some addition in that community garden with maybe some hopes of partnering with master gardeners and then maybe potentially even started some conversations with the school district, ag teachers about maybe some volunteer hours with the students that they do throughout the summer that could be done down there. So right now we have 20 beds. We're gonna, Public Works is gonna do another heavy lifting on getting everything installed, torn out, redone, and then add 20 beds. And again, Public Works will save a lot of money by doing that, and that $5,000 will really go to the materials and then, maybe some more equipment down there and access for those that maybe don't want to rent a garden bed, but just become part of more of a community garden where people can come and do some of their own work and then maybe picking from the community garden versus just having to rent a bed. So it's kind of ongoing on the programming side of things, but the county did get us that contract. So that's going to get kicked off to the council to sign and approve that we'll receive that $5,000 to start some upgrades to that park too.
Senior Center?
Yep, correct. Yep. In the senior center, even I know the coordinator there was pretty thankful. We dedicated a garden or two for her and they planted, brought some things in, made salsas and all that. So it's kind of a nice feature to be right out back there too. So, and then, yeah, just kind of wanted to reiterate that the open house, February 23rd. So 4 to 6, help spread the word is the biggest thing. We want people to show up too, right? Make it worth the while. But yep, just a reminder on Monday.
All right.
They come.
Thanks, Kyle. Dave?
Nope, no updates.
Parks and Rec Commissioner updates. We'll just go down the row. Maybe start Melissa, anything? Kim's good. Sue's good.
Nothing for me.
Aaron?
It's good and glad to have Nikki on board.
Y'all are. Aaron?
I'm good.
Nikki?
I'm good too. I'm really excited for what's to come. It's exciting.
Like we told you we have half-hour-long meetings.
Yeah, you got
You gotta suck her in somehow, right?
That.
Half hour per topic.
All right. With that, how would Nikki like to make a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second, Melissa, both ends of the table tonight. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Nikki's really much nicer.